And good night, everybody. No.
I'm done.
I was going to say, how to follow that. Lisa Kudrow, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming out to Vulture Festival, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun here. We're going to talk about Lisa's career and her comedy and her talent, and we're also going to maybe digress a little bit if it comes to that. I wanted to start out by asking, and this is one of these David Copperfield kind of questions, I guess you'd say, but was there a moment when you were looking at a movie or a play or a television show and suddenly you thought, I could do that, or I want to do that?
Yeah, I think it was when I was little, you know, and you'd play with your friends and you'd pretend to be grown-ups, and you'd pick a star. My friends would pick Ally McGraw and I picked Barbra Streisand.
That's sort of perfect in a way.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Did you take acting lessons when you were younger, or?
No, I didn't take acting lessons ever. I'm like, ever.
Yeah.
I took an acting class after college, but it was more about cold reading and being able to audition. I tried taking acting classes and it felt too much like a cult. And I couldn't do it, you know. I couldn't find that teacher who was just no nonsense and, you know.
What does a no-nonsense acting teacher teach you?
The one I actually took classes from, which was his name's Ian Tucker. And his whole point of view was, it's a business. You're here, I assume, because you can act. And it doesn't matter if you can or can't, because if you want to work, you have to be able to cope.
Right.
So, yeah, you know, how, like in Tootsie, and Dustin Hoffman has an audition and his character gets, you know, so upset because they're talking or they're eating lunch or whatever it is. And this guy's point of view is, well, maybe they've been seeing people all day and they're hungry. It has nothing to do with you. I mean, you need to walk into that room and know it has nothing to do with you. You all want to act so much. You're given an opportunity for 3 minutes to act, and all you can do is jump in their lap and see what they're thinking, feeling. Do they like you? How's it going? That's not acting.
Right.
It was so good. I need that kind of linear, no-nonsense, practical. That's my way through.
It's a very non-mystical sort of nuts and bolts way of looking at it. And it always fascinates me because I talk to a lot of performers about their craft, and as you know, everybody has a different process, and there's somebody who's going to, you know, they find out they're going to play a cab driver and they feel that they need to drive a cab for 6 months, and then there are other people who just walk on the set and go, where's the cab?
Right.
You know, and is one method necessarily more effective than the other, or?
I think it depends on you and your process, you know, and I think, but also just whatever your past experience is, maybe you do need to be a cab driver if you're not sympathetic to them, you know. Then maybe you do need to experience it so that you have a little more compassion.
How much of it is a physical skill? I mean, I often think about...
To me, it's all stunt work, as far as I'm concerned.
How do you mean?
To me, I always feel like I have to keep an eye out for a dangerous situation on a set, because I know
like
they want
literally?
to get the shot, and I want to live. So we're at odds.
So avoiding being crushed by a light or tripping over a cable or something like that?
Yeah, from that to, so you'll be in the trunk of a car and, you know, tied up with tape in the desert. Yeah, and then, we're going to put like a real snake in too.
Do they usually at least save that for the last day? Just to make sure they've got everything else?
Before you die?
Yeah.
We're laughing and it's happened, but that's not funny.
Yeah, but the physical aspects of it always fascinate me because I can't do this and I don't know what's involved with it. But when we were talking backstage, I went to see a simulcast of Ralph Fiennes and Man and Superman, which is 3-hour and 45-minute play, and he's monologuing for like 40% of it. And it's very farcical, there's a lot of marks to hit, and they're very, very fast. Like, things are changing constantly. And there's a point where I'm looking at it and thinking, even though I am enjoying this drama and I'm in this drama, there's a part of me that's just marveling at how the hell does he remember all that?
Yeah.
Where to be, what to say. And there was one moment where he reaches for his belt or something, and I saw his hand go towards his belt and then withdraw, and I realized, oh, he went too soon, and then he did it right.
Oh,
and that was like the only time in 3 hours and 45 minutes where I thought maybe he wasn't completely nailing it. But how do you, I don't understand, how? How is that possible?
Well, with that stuff, lines,
Yeah.
yeah, that, well, to me, I don't know, my process is, it's the feelings that are associated with what you're saying, why you're saying it to that person, why you're saying it this way. And so mainly the only time I can't remember what to say is if it's not logical to me, if it's not making sense. Like, how did I get from that feeling to now I'm here? Mm-hmm. And so that could take work to justify it if it turns out that it's right and I just haven't realized why it's right. You know, that's a discussion with the director or writer, you know, if you can talk to the writer.
If the writing of the character makes emotional sense from point A to point B, then it's easier to remember your lines.
Yeah, for me, and then, but some people say, and this might be true too, that whatever, you might have a personal issue that has nothing to do with the character that's sort of blocking you from remembering the line. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes that's like the most important line for the character in the show that might feel too on the nose to you, or I don't know. And so you just can't remember it.
Do you ever have trouble saying a line or remembering a line and then you realize it's because you don't like it?
Oh, well, that's my first thought is, it's probably not good. And that's why, because it can't be me. And that's why I say, and then I need to have a talk. I have to remember that, oh yeah, that's always my go-to, I'm never wrong. So what if I am?
These damn tools. Right, yeah.
What if I am? I should have a talk with the director and the writer. And sometimes it helps. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, it's like everything, you know, 50-50, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're not. And it needs to be, you know, tweaked. Right. But with specific words, sometimes I can get hung up because it doesn't feel like the way this person speaks or I speak, and so I can get caught up.
Well,
but not with I mean, because
that is.
I wrote that, so
right. Yes.
It's almost always right, you know. But sometimes I have felt like, ooh, when we were writing this, it was feeling this way. Now that I'm here with the actor in the situation, it's not exactly right. And that's when Michael will come on, he'll come over and say, I need to talk to the writer now.
Yes.
Not the actor. And I'm like, well, you're getting the actor. Because the actor's here doing it.
It's kind of perfect. It's a twofer.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you,
His nightmare.
To return to, who wrote this? Yeah.
Well, I'll say, I'm like, we were wrong.
Yes.
It's like, no, we weren't. So.
You mentioned you didn't take any acting classes per se, like not as we normally think of them, but right. You were involved in sketch comedy, right? And
yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's the first thing I did when I decided I wanted to try acting after college, and I went to the Groundlings, and well, they wouldn't have me because I hadn't done anything since junior high school. So they sent me to an improvisation teacher, Cynthia Seghetti, who's phenomenal. And so I started with improvisation. And I'm thrilled that I did. And then in the Groundlings, you know, you do improvisation and then you start writing sketches, which I think is great work. It's great. It's really hard. You know, you have 3 minutes, you have to get out who everyone is, what they're doing, the whole story, beginning, middle, end. Every line has to either tell you something about the character, move the story along, and set up or be a joke.
Right.
Oh, I loved it.
Can you describe the process by which you're sort of noodling around with an idea for a character or a situation or something, and then it takes hold? What does it feel like when it takes hold, and do you carry it with you out of the workshop? Do you thinking about it when you're not there?
Oh yeah, no, I do think about it when I'm driving or in the shower.
Are you talking in the voice of that character?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a nut. I mean, I think I look nutty, and sometimes I do. I sort of like murmur or mumble as a character. Not even, and not in the and when I'm not alone.
So your first, the first role that I really noticed you in was as Ursula. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the chronology of Mad About You and Friends, because
right.
you were on 2 shows simultaneously. And how did that come about?
First, I did Mad About You.
Right.
Ursula on Mad About You, and that was just it was like a guest star, co-star role, and she didn't have a name. It was the waitress. I got called at the last minute. You know, do you want to go over to Mad About You in an hour? And I don't know if you should. It's a character doesn't even have a name. And I said, oh no, I don't say no to Mad About You.
Right. No.
And I had been on the season before. This was their second season. I had already been on as a character named Karen, who was Paul Reiser's date the night he met Jamie, Helen Hunt's character. And this was someone else. And like, I don't say no. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And I just remember driving down there going, whatever it is, just listen, respond, and be funny. Like just whatever it is, just make it funny.
Yeah.
And so it was just a few lines, and it was funny. And by the end of the week, Danny Jacobson, who, it was his show, and he said, would it be all right with you if we had you back for 5 more? It's like, oh my God, thank God I don't need to get a day job. I thought I was gonna, yeah.
It's fun to watch a character progress in that way, where they start out and they have one small scene, and then you see them again and they have a little more to do, and then it gets to the point where it's like you know that the show likes that performer because you're starting to learn about the character.
Yeah, she got a name.
Yes.
And then they invited her over for Thanksgiving. I personally felt like, okay, now we're going. It's a good joke.
Right.
Like, that's not the problem. Well, one of my problems is I can be really objective, and it's like, oh, I think you're using me too much. Less is more.
Not in your best interest to do that. You'd been working a lot at that point, like little things here and there, and you were on the Newhart finale.
I was in the Newhart finale. Yeah. As Michele of Romy and Michele. Romy and Michele were in the Newhart finale. Yeah. Right.
That's a big deal.
Oh, it was
That's a
very big
milestone.
deal. Oh my God, it was so thrilling. We saw
Like
Suzanne.
the Sopranos finale, I was in that.
Because we were there, and then we saw Suzanne Plachette, and no one was allowed to know what the finale was going to be. And so it was so thrilling. It's like, Suzanne Plachette, oh my God, what are they doing? I can't wait. And so we're just all like crowded around the monitor to watch that scene, because you still weren't sure what it was going to be.
So your first job as a regular was Ursula. And then,
A recurring character.
recurring character, sorry. I want to get the terminology right. And then you're on Friends also, and walk me through the connection, the thinking behind why we have these 2 different characters and these 2 different, how did it work?
Well, I think because then Friends ended up getting scheduled on Thursday nights at 8:30 following Mad About You. So then how do you justify an extremely similar person, if not, the exact same. Another shade of idiot, at 8 and then at 8:30.
That's a memoir title if I ever heard it.
Got 50 Shades of Idiot. I know I do. And then how do you justify? And so the answer was they're twin sisters. That's how. That is what it is. And they're 2 different shows, 2 different showrunners, 2 different studios making the shows, too.
That's a political situation.
Luckily, I have no idea
What went into
what went into that. Yeah. But I did notice that as the Friends writers were writing Ursula, especially after Mad About You was off the air, she was getting meaner. I thought, Really? Because she was never a bad person. Are you sure? She's a porn star now? All right.
The hair is unbelievable.
On which side?
You got to play opposite yourself. That's a lot of fun. Not everyone gets to do that.
Yeah, it was fun. It actually was kind of fun.
Did you have a double, I guess, or
Yeah,
from the back
sometimes
shots?
it was my sister.
Okay.
Yeah, but then, you know, a set is no fun, and so it was okay. She stopped doing it.
Friends became a phenomenon. Huge deal.
Yeah.
It was, you know, years of probably, I bet you couldn't walk down the street without people quoting dialogue to you for a while there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. What's it like being in the middle of all that?
Oh, well, it's scary, it's jarring, you know, it's not what you thought it would be. And then, thank God, there were 6 of us together at the same time going through it.
It's like the Beatles or the astronauts or something. Like, nobody else understands what that's like, except those people.
Except now, I think a lot of people understand what that's like.
Yeah.
Because now everyone's, you know, taking pictures of themselves, and you're always taking pictures with friends, and stop what you're doing and let me take a picture.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes all they want is the picture.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange?
What do you mean?
Well, I was seeing this
Like,
thing.
what else should they want? Feels like enough for me.
I just saw a sketch online with a celebrity being stopped. 2 young women are driving by in a car, and they see her and they stop and want their picture taken, and then they drive off and they post it on Instagram. But the actual meeting of the person is not important.
Because you know what? It isn't.
Yeah.
Because you are just hello, hi, and there's no possibility for any kind of connection or deeper understanding of each other. So
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly fine.
Within-
An autograph or a picture, it's like, that's enough. You don't want more, you'll get disappointed.
Right. Right. Within all that, you got to do some really amazing comic acting. And looking back over clips for this presentation, one of the things that struck me was it seemed like every single week they were giving not just you, but all of your castmates some new thing to do. Almost like it was a dare. Like, let's see how weirdly she can run, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for everyone. That's what I've noticed, though, about this show.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed, though. I noticed then, or no, afterward, looking back, like, oh, that's the episode. Wait, just this regular old episode is the one where Joey and Chandler got the chick and the duck? Like, they stayed with it. It felt like every episode there was something that was going to return. You know, it was really serialized in a way.
What was the relationship like with the writers? I mean, was this sort of situation where they would start to sense that you're good at a particular thing, or you enjoy doing a particular thing, and they're giving you more of that, or?
Yeah.
Was there a back and forth, or?
Yes. I mean, that's why they were so good. They paid such close attention to us, and they would always let us pitch things. You know, during a run-through, we'd show them what they wrote, and then we were allowed to pitch other ideas. And just like in any writer's room anyway, you know, they're not all great, but sometimes, you know, yeah, they...
Were there memorable storylines that came about as a result of it? It's almost like an improvisational situation, but in a different setting. Though it sounds like the way you're describing it, like it's organic.
For rehearsal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. That's more in the beginning. I think later on, I'm not sure, I don't remember. Later on, it all just felt like it was a part-time job. You know, but we were all in the beginning just getting to know each other, and I don't know, I thought they came up with such hilarious stuff for the characters. I love, you know, like Monica, who, like, they instantly discovered, you know, because Courtney is very, you know, well, let me do that, I'll take care of it. Hey, did you get that done? Let me do it for you.
Yeah.
You know, she's, you know, she's fantastic that way, and really, you know, I can't, this cushion's wrong, I gotta fix that, you know. And so and it was really funny, and they just like wrote it in. And then when they do Monica from high school, Fat Monica, I mean, there was nothing funnier.
That's true. And at a certain point, they obviously discovered that David Schwimmer is at his funniest when he's trying to preserve his dignity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's always defending it. He's always defending it, and there's none to defend, really.
I know. Well, he's at his funniest all the time, I think. I mean, everything he did was funny. But the same things, well, they're all really funny. Watching Jennifer just sort of like, you believe she was trying to follow something that was moving around.
So, and around the same time, Romy and Michele. Romy and Michele's high school reunion came out.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking a little bit before about the origins of these characters, and I wonder if you could maybe tell that story to the audience, because it's pretty charming, I think.
Okay, yeah. I popped my gum in my mouth. It's medicinal. Yeah, so Romy and Michele, I played Michelle Weinberger in a play called Ladies' Room. In fact, that was the first audition I ever had, and I got it. It was for a backers audition for the play Ladies' Room. So they wanted to make this play, and they needed backers. Aaron Spelling and Doug Kramer were considering backing it, but they had to have an audition for them. And so they held auditions for people to put the audition on. I'd never heard of such a thing. I didn't care. And so, but through the groundlings, I was recommended to audition for it, and I got it, and it was thrilling. And then they did the play, and I was able to still be in the play. We had to audition again. And these two characters were on stage, I think, a total of like 7 minutes, the entire play. But we always got our laughs. So then they did a pilot. That wasn't very good. And then, years later, you know, I think Disney was always looking at it for a movie. And then I was on Friends, so they let me play my part in the movie.
Did you have any idea of how beloved this movie would become? I'm sorry to sound like James Lipton, but it's true. I mean, this is one of those movies where if it comes on TV, if you start watching it, you're pretty much done for the next hour and 45 minutes.
Oh,
you have
yeah?
to watch the rest of it, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Were you just thinking of it as another project at the beginning? I mean, it was a personal significance, but...
Well, but this was the first movie that I had such a big part in. You know, I think I had done Mother, the Albert Brooks movie. It was a small part, which was thrilling because it's Albert Brooks.
Great
scene,
too.
my God.
Yeah.
Is it? I haven't seen it in a long time, you know. But no, that was, and then Mira Sorvino, she had just won an Oscar. So
That's right, Mighty Aphrodite.
My God, it was thrilling. It was really fun. Janine Garofalo, got to work with Janine, and Alan Cumming. And
I remember when it came out, I thought there was something about the presentation of it that made it seem like these were characters who had been around for forever and that we all knew and loved. It was like a movie. It was like a movie that had been made after there had been a TV show for 7 years or something like that. Yeah, it felt very just complete in its way. Oh my God.
okay.
I love that. So there's as funny as that scene is, and as funny as that movie is, there's a kind of a melancholy undertow to it, because it seems like there's a lot of regret and a lot of pain in it too. I mean, there's that sense of being bullied, being ostracized, and do you feel that way about it when you watch it? Is it just funny? Is it a lark to you, or do you feel that what I feel, that other sort of aspect to it?
I don't know. I feel like, you know, any sort of good romp always should, or usually does, have like certain real moments that sort of ground it as much as it can be grounded, you know, that the characters actually had real heartbreak, or, you know, like life, to some make it relatable, finally.
This is like that sort of map almost idea that you're talking about, where it's easy to remember your lines if the emotions make sense.
Yeah.
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 If they seem real.
Yeah. I mean, that, you know, that of course was a dream. So.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, I don't know how I remembered that. As I was looking, I was like, what was I going off on about? Oh, it's about the feelings. And like,
What really makes that for me is the right. We were talking about the comeback, the clip that brought us out here, and I want to return to that because you've had two versions of the comeback, and there was the first one in 2005, which I hope some of you were on board with that. And they were.
good.
But that was one of those shows that I was a television critic at the Star-Ledger at the time that show ran, and that was one of the shows that my editors actually took me aside and told me to stop writing about this all the time. It was like not a week would go by that I wouldn't find an excuse to write an article about the comeback, and I was so glad that it came back.
Oh, good.
It came back again this year. Where did this character come from? Where did this idea come from? How did it develop?
Well, I mean, I had, first there was this idea about, I was just shocked and horrified with reality TV. And there had been, it's like a sound effect, but not a well-placed one.
You could say exactly the same thing again. We can see if it happens. Anyway, the comeback.
So reality shows, and there had only really been like Survivor. Amazing Race was in its second season only, and there were no housewives. We had the Osbournes and Anna Nicole Smith.
Right.
And I thought, this can't end well for these people, and unfortunately, it's true for some of those people. And I really was thinking, I think people actually won't survive this. And
which people? The people on the show, or people watching it, or?
That they won't be able to handle it. And then, sure enough, there were some suicides.
Yes.
In years, after 2005, and because I just remember, it was really hard, like on Friends, for the six of us to go through that, and then for these people, and the reason it's hard is because you think, oh, good, I'm going to be allowed to like myself a little better if I'm getting enough positive feedback from outside, which is, I think, kind of common, and maybe not now. Maybe you're all more evolved. Let's just say that you are. And then I think you quickly learn that no, it's not a problem solver for anything. You have to do some work in here and, shore yourself up. And I just felt like a lot of people wanted to just have sort of instant fame, and so sure, I'll do what? Vomit and cry on national television.
Right.
Which I'd never seen before, and thought that's the end of the world. I mean, it's the end of civilization, and I think it was an end of a certain aspect of our society, personal dignity.
The original show feels, in retrospect, very ahead of a particular curve. Like the difference between 2005 and 2010 is pretty drastic, I think, and it goes to something that you were talking about earlier, this, the phenomenon of we're all kind of celebrities in a way. Like
right.
if we're on social media, if we're
yeah.
posting pictures of ourselves and so
Yeah, we're publishing and broadcasting ourselves every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, look, I'm saying, like, I think that's really bad, in terms of personal dignity and what will allow ourselves, how humiliated we'll allow ourselves to be in order to get, I don't know, a cookbook deal, or,
right.
I don't know. Look, people have reasons for doing them, and they are surviving. And I think the good part of that, though, is that we maybe don't take ourselves so seriously. So I think there's, like with everything, there's good and bad. But I was focused on the bad.
Yeah.
2005.
The level of humiliation that Valerie experiences, and a lot of the people around her who are associated with her experiences, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was tough for some people to take.
I know.
And as much as I loved the show, it fell under the heading of shows I called radio television, by which I mean that parts of it are so painful that I'm actually doing this and I'm listening
Right.
to the show.
Yeah, I didn't predict that, and I don't think Michael did either. So I was kind of surprised that people felt like they couldn't even watch it. It was so painful. So, I mean, in one way, I felt like that is such a feat that there's no like physical violence, and it's not like
True.
sexually graphic.
Yeah.
It's just feelings, and people are like, I can't. You know, that's fantastic.
It's emotional violence.
It's emotional violence.
Yeah.
But you know, as Valerie and playing, because people would also say, how hard was that for you to play? And the answer is not at all, because she won't have it. I mean, I think in some ways that was the thing that maybe we didn't present it well enough, but she never got down. She never fell down. She never gave up.
No.
Something negative came her way, got it, negative, spin it. You know?
Yeah.
You know, the sad part is she thought she could convince you of a different story than what is clearly happening.
Right.
But
Yes.
she never let it in, and she didn't feel it.
Yes.
I mean, I know denial. And I'm good at it, and I can tell you, so's Valerie.
It's also, as a send-up of the reality TV show phenomenon, another thing that's remarkable about it is how detailed it is in the way that it recreates what this show would actually look like. And I always felt that what we were seeing was not the finished version of the show, but
Right.
maybe a rough version of, you know, like maybe this is what they presented to the network and it wasn't, you know, like it didn't feel like...
Well, I think in the opening it says raw footage.
Raw footage, that's
Raw
right.
footage.
That's right.
And our initial idea that we really wanted to do, and luckily Michael was directing them, was to just have one camera and it's raw footage. And then we realized really quickly we'll need another camera, and it can't be. So it had to be like an editor's first assembly.
Right.
Yeah.
And but there's so many shows, including The Office and Parks and Recreation, and they're great shows, but a lot of shows that do this pseudo-documentary format, they don't really stick with it. There's a certain
Right.
point where it becomes kind of like just a show with a handheld camera, and when it reminds you of what the premise is, you're like, oh, I forgot it was supposed to be that. But.
Yeah, because it can get tricky then with the storytelling. It can interfere, and then, you know, everything we did, we felt like it's true and it's what would happen. And we did check that people do forget that the camera's on.
Right.
I mean, they even forget that there's a camera. But especially if there's like one in the house somewhere, they forget about it, and they are more frank, and you can find moments. And then I think one of the favorite things we discovered was her just sort of rounding a corner, and we just hear what's going on and just see like the back of her head or something, or someone else. And that stuff is what makes it feel really intimate and real to me.
It does. You have a number of episodes that include the I guess what we call the mistakes, and some of them even use it for sort of a poetic effect. Like you'll end with, you know, the camera lying on a ledge and you're seeing the rest of the scene sideways or something like that. How much of that comes out of just, how much of it is planned in advance, and how much of it is a case of just you look at it in the editing room later and go, ooh, that seems like a good place?
It's usually not in the editing room. Michael, like I said, he's usually on set whether he's directing or not, and he's visually remarkable. And so he'll see something happening, and when we do the shot again, he makes sure that the camera's catching it a little better, or he'll have the idea. I can't remember if it's in the script, you know, I can't remember, but that's what, I mean, makes the show the show.
Right.
It's that stuff that Michael discovers on set. And just put it down, let me see what that looks like. And that's how we'll end it. We'll just hear them talking, and we'll play the music, and
So the sense of spontaneity that makes a show so distinctive is very carefully monitored.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's really incredible what happens to a scene if we're just doing what we wrote, and then he'll feel like it's flat. I don't know. It's flat. It's not. Can we have that guy just like bump into them while they're talking, or a guy's carrying a big thing and walks just right between the two of them to interrupt the conversation, and then he won't even tell us, you know, we'll just keep going. But that's the stuff that, he's unbelievable, Michael. I mean, and when we were working on this second round, you know, we figured out what all the stories were. And then we'd have notes from the writer's room, you know, and he and I would sort of act out scenes and with the other writers. And, you know, and then we'd be shooting and I'd see Michael at a little card table writing like episode 5 and still going, okay, oh, you know what would be great? Getting up and, I mean, how a person can do that many things at the same time and that well it's like otherworldly to me.
And the refinement of a scene as it goes along. And you know, you've seen so much of this because this is your business, but just the times that I visited the set with people who are on in the way that you've described, it's incredible to see. It's almost like you're seeing a sculpture being made. Like, you know, here's this block of marble and I'm gonna cut this part out of it, and no, I've changed my mind, now I'm gonna go over to this side.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like, the scene is literally shaped in the way that you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. You know, the story is done and the dialogue is done, but that's not all there is at all. And yeah.
What would you say for you are the biggest differences between the first comeback and the second? What did you learn? What did you add? How is the feeling different?
Well, we didn't learn. You mean what do you mean learn?
Well, I would think that when you come back to a character in a set of situations again.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Okay.
you might think like, here's
Yeah.
something after having done this and watched this. Here's what we want to do differently, or here's what we want to do
The same.
additionally, or the same.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted it to feel like be the same show, for sure. And we didn't, you know, Michael was really zen, thank God, about doing this next round, and it kept me calm. Because I did feel like there's a lot of people who really loved the show and they saw it more than once.
Right.
And we didn't watch it before we worked. We planned on it, and we didn't. There was just never time. I think we felt like we'd be intimidated by that work.
Because of the reputation it had acquired?
No, because it was
sense?
good. I mean, I think we were afraid that we'd watch it and go, that was so good. I don't know. I don't know if we can do it again. So I think it was a good instinct that we both silently had to not watch it because we would have been, I think, intimidated. But I don't remember what we were talking about. What did we learn?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we did sit down to work on this and talk about where are they, what's happening, and we didn't have a big idea yet, but as we're doing things and scenes and situations and moments, I'm feeling like, because like I said, we improvise, and sometimes he's Valerie and I'm Mark, or he's Mickey and I'm Valerie, and Valerie was kind of crankier.
Yeah.
And I remember stopping at one point going, I'm crankier. Like, she's less patient, she's less of a pleaser.
Yes.
And I said, but that's okay, right? Because it's 9 years later.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, exactly. Yes, let's just do it. He was so fantastic. He was really trusting of what our impulses are telling us to do. Let's just follow them, and we'll know when it's wrong. And it's feeling right, so let's just do that.
You had mentioned earlier, we were sort of parenthetically mentioning the Albert Brooks film Mother. And you said, I've never seen it.
Not never. I should
I
have
was going
said
to say,
never.
because I know some actors actually literally don't watch the movies after they act.
Right. No, I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just haven't seen it in a while.
Oh, okay. All right. I just wanted to check about that.
Yeah.
Because it's not as unusual as you might think, I think.
No, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
people can't watch themselves, and I'm like borderline. I can watch Valerie Cherish all day long.
Yeah.
I just can't.
Do you, is it possible for you to get lost in a story of a television show or a film that you are in when you're on screen?
Get lost in it?
Yeah, are you sitting there thinking, why did I say that line that way, or I wish we'd had one more day to shoot that, or,
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. If I'm saying, why did I say the line that way? Then depending on the reason why, either because I wasn't doing a very good job, and if I'm aware that there was a way to say that line, then I wasn't in it.
Right.
But then if I feel like there might be another, yes, I often would, talk to Michael or whoever was directing and just say, look, can we do this again? And this time she's not as angry, or she's so there's a choice in editing in case the story's feeling a little too lopped. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to get boring.
You were on Scandal. You were on Scandal, and
Yeah.
and quite a change of pace from the comeback.
Everything else.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God. There are speeches in that show.
Yeah. Shonda Rhimes doesn't mess around.
And it's, and please say them and just say them.
Yeah.
Like, don't breathe because we don't have time.
Yeah. They shoot it really fast, don't they?
They shoot, no. In editing, we don't have time. We only have 41 minutes. And if everyone took their time.
So it's like an
then
Aaron
we'd never
Sorkin
have-
situation where it's
Yeah.
like he would turn in 96 pages for a 48-page show and just
Right.
everybody talk really fast.
Yes, but I think it's not just talk fast. I
Yeah.
think they need everyone to talk fast. That's the rhythm they hear, and that's the culture of that show, Yeah.
The tone is very interesting because it's fun, it's funny, it's sexy, it's surprising, it's a melodrama, but it's also incredibly dark, and it doesn't feel like escapism somehow because it's about politics, and your
Right.
storyline particularly, I felt that.
Oh, really? You did?
Yeah.
They write well.
They do.
They write really
do.
well, and I got to work with Dan Bukatinsky, who's my partner.
Yeah.
That's, who I have my production company with. That was thrilling.
It is, and
Yeah.
it's almost got that sort of like a network kind of feeling, like.
I just heard shrill, 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 shrill.
Did you?
Yeah. I don't know what I said.
This is one
That's
of the.
what I mean. I could watch Valerie all day long. I don't know why,
But not this character.
or anything else. I do.
Why Valerie and nobody else? Is it just?
Maybe because her voice is more, I can handle it better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's got that phony, it's not as nasal. She took acting classes.
Right. Well, I wondered if it would be okay if we opened the floor to some questions from the
Sure.
audience. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
How is this going to work? Do we have a roving mic? Great. Okay, we're going to put it in the middle. This is terrific. So if you want to ask a question, you can come on up and ask away.
Hi, thank you. I just finished season 2 of The Comeback yesterday and was weeping, sitting on the floor weeping. But the thing that struck me so much about your character is how expressive your face is. And I don't know, and to hear that you never took acting lessons is pretty impressive. So I don't know if that's something you're aware of, but you have, I think, the most expressive face of any actor that I can think of. So I just wonder if you could talk about using your face. Thanks.
Yeah, Don Roos has said, that's a writer-director who's phenomenal, and I've worked with him a lot. And he's always said, you can't lie because you can't hide anything on your face. So I think that's all. I think it's like letting thoughts out. And for Valerie, you've got to let thoughts out so that the audience knows, yeah.
This is making my entire life being able to
Great!
talk to you right now. So and there's
That's
a question. I'm not just
fantastic.
going to end it there.
I could end everything there.
I had gone to a previous Q&A that you had done a few years ago with the New Yorker Festival. I'm just festival follow you, apparently. And you would, at that point, weren't sure if the comeback would be back for a round 2.
Right.
And you had discussed that you thought that if it did come back, you would love to see Valerie at the Actors Studio.
I know.
And I know there's been a lot of kind of buzz in the press about maybe coming back again. Is that something you could see for possibly the third go-round?
Yeah, I'd love
Growing
it.
into the New York theater scene? And
I would love that. I would love that. That, to me, is still really funny. Can you imagine Valerie trying to, with theater folk?
yeah.
She'd be eaten alive.
She'd love it. She'd love it. Okay.
So much harder than Hollywood.
Sounds great.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
So earlier this month, the casting director for Friends gave an interview where she talked about how right before shooting the pilot, like in the really early stages of the show, you kind of came up and pitched this alternate version of Phoebe that was different than what we ended up seeing on screen. And then right before you went and made the pilot, everyone kind of decided not to go that direction and go with the Phoebe that we know and love. So I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about what this alternate Phoebe was like.
I'm dizzy. Because I don't know what you're talking about. I did? I don't think I did.
Okay.
Why would I?
I don't know.
Did I? I wish I heard her.
Okay, well.
I don't think I did. A different no. What?
I forget the woman's name. Is like Ellen or Eileen, someone. But yeah, guess you did not.
Well, when we were shooting the pilot, I do know that there was a lot of discussion about, from Jim Burrows, why are they friends with her? Which made me feel really secure. And then he pitched for one of the run-throughs. Phoebe had this monologue. That was the audition monologue, too, where she's, my mother killed herself, and I lived in a car. This monologue, he's like, oh, you know what? Do it from under the table. What? So they're all sitting around the table and I'm under it? You're quirky that way. It's like, all right. Okay, because I was a good girl. And then luckily, maybe that's what it is. And then David and Marta saw that at the run-through and gently, as if it had been my idea, gently said, if it's okay with you, can you be not under the table? Is that, Jimmy, can we put her not under the table so that she's with the group as we're trying to sell that they're all friends? And I don't know why I don't know if that's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Oh my God, you're so hot. I just want to say really quick before I ask my question, I just want to echo probably everyone's feelings here that just like Valerie, I'm praying that you win the Emmy this year for the comeback.
Hey, thank you. That's nice.
Going along with that, are we ever going to see Seeing Red? Like the actual, the footage that happened. Will we ever get to see that series? Because I'm dying to see it, and I'm sure everyone else wants to see it too.
I know, wouldn't that be?
It'd be
well,
amazing.
Do you remember the reviews?
They were, well, your reviews were amazing. They
Right.
Were, yes.
But for the show.
They were mixed, yes. So, answers the question, right?
So careful what you wish for. But yeah, I don't know. Seth Rogen, when we were shooting it, he was saying, I would do the show. Sure, on a day like that, yeah. I don't know.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
I've seen Opposite of Sex so many times and recited all those lines over and over again.
Oh.
But what I wanted to ask was about the end of the comeback and in like the history of these kind of like peeling back the layers of show business, like in Hamlet and Singing in the Rain and a chorus line, right? I think this was the first time that they ever kind of put the cover back on, like. And so in that moment, like I felt incredibly betrayed. Like I was like, oh, like it's not, no, like she's like, no, she's gone, right? Like
Because she walked away from the camera?
Yes, when she walked away, because like when I realized it was no longer reality, I was crushed, and my husband was like, no, this is the best thing that's ever happened. Like, no. And so but I was just wondering if you could talk about that, because like we had a definite household split on that.
Yeah. Oh, and so you're still feeling like, no, that's not what I signed up for when I agreed to watch this show.
It made me feel like she disappeared, that she turned into what was being like she turned into the myth that the whole point of the show was to dismantle. Like for me.
Oh, how funny. Ooh, that's interesting. No, we never considered that. That's really interesting. Michael, we were in the writer's room, Amy B. Harris and John Rigi, Michael and I, and Michael, we were talking about, the end of the show, and we had just decided, no, she should win the Emmy. And then Michael went, wait, what if she leaves? Because we were trying to figure out, and we wanted her to go to the hospital, and the question was, how did the cameras follow her to what hospital's letting the cameras in? Would they, wouldn't they? And then Michael went, what if she leaves the cameras? And I went, I don't know about that. I don't know. But everyone else went, I love that. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know. And I think that's about all I could say, because I wasn't sure that it was, I just wasn't sure. And I kept saying, no, let's do it. But we have time, let's build in time, we can shoot it with the cameras too, right? Like, yeah, and we didn't, of course. But, and it did work, I think. It worked. And it's funny, because for a lot of people, they feel like, oh, we got to see the real her, like she's a real human being.
Yeah.
And the real human being isn't spinning things as much when it's serious and grave.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
So as someone who considers like social media humiliation just a part of growing up, I'm just curious.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's just, it's just normal. It's like a part of just doing what you need to do. I've just always been curious about some of my idols, like you, if while you were coming up, you had social media and your friends, co-stars had their online personas, you probably would have had an Instagram. What do you think your online persona would have been like? Would you have done funny hashtags or serious ones? Would you have been more Phoebe or more yourself? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I am on Twitter. Because,
Which is great.
well, I'm not sure that it makes a difference in any case. But only because of, if it were back when Friends was on, maybe it would make a difference, be more meaningful. But I don't know. I had a lot of fun. We had a show called Web Therapy, and the character's Fiona Wallace. Oh, okay, good. So I had a blast. We opened an account for her, and she would tweet. That was the most fun I've ever had. I stopped doing it, but that was really fun to tweet in character. Yeah, but then it's I can't. It's like doing a whole other show to me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I'm really nervous.
Oh, no.
Which Friends character do you think you're the most like Phoebe or a different one?
That I'm the most like? Well, Rachel. Because that's how I grew up.
Thanks.
Also, nervous.
Oh, no.
So I'm just finishing the first season. I'm really looking forward to the second season.
Oh, okay.
And one thing that I really love about the show is it just seems like a really realistic look at sexism in Hollywood and the way Valerie Cherish is treated, but how she kind of stays strong and how like women have to stay strong no matter what. And I really loved how, especially the relationships between all the women stay positive. Like there's there's competition, but
Right.
there's like she's more of a motherly figure. And so I guess I'm so nervous. Just want to
No, I love what you're talking about.
if it's a conscious effort that you're making to create a feminist culture, or if it's just kind of naturally what's happening, and it's kind of like you're lucky to be on the show when everyone's working together, and it's not really a point, or if it is kind of point and you're fighting for something.
Okay. I actually feel like we're just reporting something. We don't mean to be editorializing as much as we're given credit for. I'm not anyway, and I think that it's up for debate whether Valerie is a feminist or not. I mean, I think that's really debatable. And
No, I love it. It does have that kind of natural feel to it, which I just love. So
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, I like that it is more of a natural expression.
yeah, we're just saying this is how it is. That a guy like, oh, you didn't see the second season?
I mean, I hear about it. I know what's coming up.
Boy, are you in for something.
I know. I'm like
Yeah.
sad and excited at the same time.
Sad. No, just be excited. I'll tell you how you should feel.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But we're just reporting, we think, what is. That guys like Polly G, they do have power, and if they're successful, they have even more power. And that's just the way it is. And a woman, depending on how much leverage you have in your role in the business, you can stand up for yourself, or cope with your discomfort, or risk losing your job, or getting bad writing. And so, to me, that's a personal decision. And it's not about being a feminist or not.
Valerie herself may not be feminist, but I feel like the show is. Just by virtue of reporting, as you say, the way things are.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, look, it's still, we're still, the people who make decisions are less and less, but still the children are very sexist society, right? And I think that's a tough thing to break, and I think, they're trying as best they can. But, on a show, especially in the 90s or the 80s, that showrunner was the godfather of the show, and that's it. And I don't know, but I know that personally, I've made choices where I know what my comfort level is. I know what it is. And yes, I speak up. Valerie's too afraid because she's afraid that she's expendable, and everyone's expendable, but she's really afraid that she is, and so she tries to just cope.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely adore you. I've been obsessed with the comeback since day one.
Oh.
One of my favorite things about Valerie Cherish is her ability to never remember anyone's name. Mary J. Bilge, Leela Durham, Shayna, Shayla.
Leela Durham.
I was just wondering where that came from. I know you kind of touched on it in the second season about you had no reference with Shayna's name, but just curious.
I know, but that's not true. It's not like an outrageously uncommon name. It's funny, yeah. No, that's her not paying attention, and that it doesn't matter. Mary J. Bilge.
Mary J.
Thank you.
Yeah. She's lucky I'm saying her name. Giving her some PR.
Number one, Valerie Cherish for Roxy Hart in Chicago after Brandy. I would watch it.
Yeah, no, that's what we talked about.
Amazing.
She'd have to do
Two,
Chicago.
Because
Greece.
you mentioned the play Ladies' Room that Romy and Michele was based on, and being in New York, do you have any desire to do theater again? And if you could come to Broadway in any play, what would it be?
I don't know. I don't think it would be a musical. I don't think. I can promise you it would not be a musical. But I would, and that's for when my son's maybe in college, if I'm asked. And then you have to be invited. Hi.
So you've played a bunch of characters and for 6-7 years on end. And is there you start to embody them and really connect with them, is there any kind of grieving process when it's over, or is it just onwards and upwards, but or do you, I don't know, you're kind of into this person for so long and then you start to figure out their little nuances and then it's over. Is it weird or?
Yeah, it can. Yeah, there is a little bit of sadness. Yeah, I'm not sure if we're doing more web therapy, so I'm a little sad. I'll miss. I love that.
Go. All right.
So yeah, there's a little bit of oh, it was fun to do. That's too bad. Oh well. It's like that. I mean, with Friends, I actually cried. I mean, there was one season before we were done that I thought we might not come back. And it turned out we did. But when I really thought we might not come back, I remember driving home and I burst into tears, thinking, oh, I'm gonna miss Phoebe. And Monica and Rachel and Joey and I can get a little choked up when I say those names more than Phoebe. I miss those people. Oh.
Yeah.
I really do. They were fun.
Yeah. It's pretty deep when you think about it that way.
That
You know?
it's
Do
the
they-
other
yeah,
people on
yeah,
this?
this idea that they exist. You're playing them. They exist on TV. They
Yeah.
exist on film, and it is almost like they cease to exist if you're not playing them anymore.
Right.
You know, and I guess you could rationalize it and say they do exist, and we're just not doing more episodes. But that sounds like you're just telling yourself a story. You know,
For coping.
for coping, right? Yeah.
I'm all for that. But yeah, no, yeah, I do. But for it's a little bit.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
When I watched The Comeback, I was really young. I think I was like 10 or 12 or something.
Wow.
But like I found some stuff when I watched it then, it wasn't that funny, like some of the dirty stuff because I couldn't get it at all. But when like I rewatched it, I found it interesting that I did find the whole show funny. So I think it was really interesting that what's the difference between doing comedy then and now, and that some comedy is timeless like Friends.
And that some comedy is, did you say timeless, like Friends? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I think Friends is still working. We'll see if it's timeless. But I think it's because it's about relationships, you know, between people and the jokes were good, too. And they weren't cultured, climate sensitive.
No, and the jokes came out of who they were. They always came out of who the characters were, and the characters almost always did what you thought that character would do in that situation, which is why it was funny.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
I should have just handed them all over to the expert, you know, who knows
But it
how
was
to
worked out. But it's
discuss
like what you
these
were
things.
talking about, that you know, it's thought through. There's
Yeah.
nothing that has to be papered over.
Yeah, that's why those writers were so good. Yes, they took us in, took the characters in, and yeah. Oh, and the comeback, well, we didn't write it for 10-year-olds. So, okay.
Hi. Is there going to be a Friends reunion?
Oh, boy. I mean,
I really want one.
Wouldn't it be great?
It would be.
Yeah, it would be really fun. I'm not doing this like, let's have applause. I didn't want to do that. I wasn't going to, I
A
don't
lot
wanna
of
do that.
people would like to see that.
They would like to see that, yeah. I mean, that would be great. Okay, the 6 of us can't even get in a room for dinner.
That's another.
You know?
I have another question. I know I'm cheating, but are you guys friends in real life?
Yes, and
You
so
are.
we
And you
are.
can't have dinner together?
We're forever trying. Well, we don't all live in the same state. We don't all have the same work schedule anymore. And, you know, so we are constantly trying to wait. So when are you in town? It's crazy. And then, but it's sweet that we're trying, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that we're trying. Yeah, I love that we're trying. And then also, I think we would really want it, like Marta and David, if something would happen, that they would be the ones to write it. And let's face it, they're busy.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how or when. And then also, what's that going to be about? Menopause and midlife crises? I don't know. I'm not eager to see that episode. I don't know.
I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I've been rewatching a lot of Friends on Netflix, and it struck me, I've thought this for a while, that despite Phoebe's origins as kind of like the ditzy one of the group, is that I often feel like she's actually the smartest one of all in some ways.
In some ways, I agree.
Because she's the most confident about herself and knows who she is as a person and is comfortable with her view of the world. And she can just often have this really smart, sarcastic edge to her. And I just always really like that about Phoebe. So I guess I'm just interested in knowing a little bit about the evolution of the character from your process as an actress or anything that you talked about with the writers, like over the seasons, to have her go fairly quickly, I think, from like sort of the cute airhead to the one who's got this edge that surprises everybody and this kind of interesting form of intelligence.
Well, I think even from the pilot, that she was a little more than a cute airhead. I thought, that monologue I, mentioned before, where we learn her entire backstory, which is just full of tragedy. And so, just so you know, for when I was auditioning for it, I thought, okay, so this to make this funny, it's, those kinds of people who, they're not fully taking in how hideous it all was. They're just trying to make it okay so they can keep going. Otherwise, they would just not exist because it's not possible. So she's one of those people who's like, who says things like, like when your mother dies, like we all, it's like if you turn it into a shared experience, it makes it okay, And so she's doing that, and there's not, like, no one has all that stuff, and that's sort of what made it funny. And so I think because of my take on that, because I never had a big conversation, I don't think, with Marta and David about, is that what you meant? Because I figure I got, don't have discussions. You got the job, now just shut up and do it. And so I just assumed that's what it was. And so we just took it from there. And then I just started feeling like it's not that she's an idiot, and I say that a lot, but it's not that she's an idiot. She has no information. The girl didn't finish school. And she has no information at all, and so she's glommed onto this, new age philosophy that she just assigns every question mark to that. Like evolution, right? With Ross, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, yeah.
Okay. Last couple of questions.
I wasn't going to ask this until you mentioned menopause in the context of the Friends reunion. So I'm the husband who thought that the last episode of the second season was awesome, and the guy who was up here asking the question before. And the other disagreement that we always had was... Right. Got it.
Yeah. You liked the walking away from the cameras.
Another
Great.
thing is,
okay, got it.
He sort of thinks that the wonderful thing about Valerie was how wonderfully shallow she is. And I always thought that I think she has this incredible wisdom and morality and ethical nature that is sort of, yay. But then that's not even what my question's about. It's really that you guys are talking about feminism, and is it feminist? To me, as a man over 50, it was really, the thing was her age. In other words, she was being shunted aside and not listened to despite her moral compass and her great career wisdom and life wisdom, not only because she was a woman, because she was an older woman, although she seems like she's about 40.
That's in season 1 mostly, talking about her dealings on the sitcom set?
I think that some of the, what was the word you used? Anger, or in the second season she's...
cranky, I said.
Crankier. I think it's because she's kind of fed up with that bullshit.
Right, you get to a point where, you're not trying to please, you're not a young girl.
So it's bad the first time. I guess the question is sort of, could you comment on like the age versus the gender thing?
Yes, okay, thank you. I think that from the first season, to me, what wasn't, yes, there's all of that in there for sure, but it's relevance. And she was she was like a bad sitcom actress. And Polly G had written a show, and he's a good writer, he and Tom. They won an Emmy for Simpsons. Those are good writers always. And then the network's not sure about the industry, so they attach a reality show to their show if they want to continue, and he doesn't have a choice. Then the network wants them to change their idea and make everyone young and bopping around in a beach house, and he doesn't have a choice. Then they tell him, so everyone's young, but you got to keep the reality show. And he doesn't have a choice. So I felt like a lot of his anger was about all of that, and you're not funny.
Yeah.
I'm better than you. And I think that, so to me, a lot of it was, she's not that good, and he's stuck with her. But you can, because she's a woman and because she's older and not relevant, he could treat her poorly. He can let that out a little more.
He can take out that resentment.
Yeah. He can express it, but he couldn't express it to certain other people. But he could express it with her. So to me, it's not, I don't know, it's folded in, but it's not the core reason to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He's punching down. He's punching down because he can't punch up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the root of everything.
Or even
across, right?
cross.
Yeah.
He can't, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it can't even be that bad with Tom Peterman, but we find out season 2 that, yeah, they had their problems, but not in public, like what he'll do to her.
It is so much of it is about power. A lot of the parts that are funny and the parts that are not funny often seem to come down to that.
Yeah, what you can get away with.
Right.
And you can get away with treating her badly. She doesn't have power.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
I can't believe I'm talking to you. This is like so surreal to me.
It's real.
I'm really nervous. I just wanted to say that I wanted to thank you so much for all the characters you played over the year. Like, I was a really lonely kid in Ireland. I didn't have like the greatest upbringing and stuff, and you always made me feel that's great to be a weirdo, and it's really good to be like strong and like Valerie Cherish. And I just really want to thank you for making me feel like I had a friend through the really hard times, through everything.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's nice.
Just one little thing in closing. One of the things that's been most delightful about this discussion is hearing how much love people have for the comeback and how much appreciation they have for it. And this whole idea, when I was first going crazy writing pieces about it, there was a perception not just in my newsroom but in the industry at large that it was a difficult show. It was emotionally a difficult show, conceptually difficult show, and I never felt that way.
No,
and I don't feel like it is, and I feel like the people in this room never felt that way either.
Right.
And I hope we get to see a third season of it.
Oh, good. Yeah, me too.
And thank you very, very much for your art and for coming out here.
Thank you.
Lisa Kudrow. And